a year before the elections gets underway. So why this early start? And what contribution has former President Jacob Zuma made to this national working at all?
My name is Muntingan from SABC. I want to know, because you mentioned that.
Who? What's your name?
Muntingan from SABC. You say former President Zuma is here. I want to know whether you have extended the invite to former President Thabo Mbeki as well. And maybe ANC was punished by voters in the last local government elections on the issues around toll gates in Gauteng, for example, an example. I want to know as to whether, moving forward to 2019, because the issue of toll gates are still there, how it's going to be different from the past local government elections.
No, thanks. Comrade Mbalula, the head of elections, will deal with all the other questions. Just to confirm to you that invitations have indeed been issued to all the former presidents, and the deputy president, including President Zuma himself. They are all beginning to hit the call. You will start seeing more of them as we move forward, because there's also the work of political education that we're also expecting them to be doing to make sure that we can restore the true values of the African National Congress going into 2019 general elections. I'm going to allow the head of elections to deal with all your other questions.
Well, just to allay everybody's fears, the entire National Executive Committee is here. And in that National Executive Committee, you've got ex-officio members, which is the Youth League, the Women's League, Veterans League. We have extended an invite to the COSATU and the Communist Party. President Zuma and President Mbeki and Kgalema have been accepted in the last NEC as ex-officio members. And at all times they will be invited. It is optional on their part whether they come or they don't come. So there is nothing sinister, because I know the Zuma phenomenon will eat us alive, as though he's the only one who has actually been invited. So it is a standing invite as approved by the National Executive Committee. And it's on the basis of that he is here and others have been invited and have tendered apologies for one reason or the other. In terms of Samkelo, Metro candidate, we are in the politics of engagement with whoever, and in particular, the question of Nelson Mandela Bay and the question of power and in that coalition, and the utterances of the EFF, or what the EFF have pronounced on their part, the ANC is open to a discussion with the EFF. As to the details of that discussion in relation to what has been pronounced, it will be a subject of discussion. But the African National Congress will be open to such a discussion, because we believe that in Nelson Mandela Bay, what has actually happened in that particular part in terms of the election has actually reversed the gains that the ANC have made in that metro over the years. Should an opportunity arise that the ANC can govern the metro to accelerate transformation, the ANC is open to that. That includes all other metros. So we're not going to close a door to a discussion. Even before the coalition formation, we did speak to the EFF, and you know what they said, that they wouldn't support us and so on. And we have always been open to talk on the question of the coalition, particularly in the metros. However, I've been received like a hero coming from the war in Iraq, you know. But on a serious note, I think we all embrace the energy and the speed in which we have to move. And I think the attendance to the workshop explained the determination of the African National Congress to begin to focus on the important task of building the organization, building unity, and ensuring that in the context of renewal, headquarters of the ANC strengthened. And it is in that context that it was outlined by the SG of the ANC during the week that our coming to headquarters, is important because it's not like paying lip service to conference resolution. Myself, Senzo Mkhunu, Pule Mabi, Zizi Kodwa, I think everybody is excited and our members are excited that Lutulia House is led now by members of the NEC on full-time basis and complementing the component of the officials, the SG, DSG, and the TG. It has never happened in the history of the ANC, I think since 1994. So we're back there. So everybody is excited in our organization and they expect us to work hard because even though I've got a gray hair, of which people misunderstand my gray hair represents wisdom. Yeah. It's not aging. So I'm forever young. So that's what it is. So even though people say we are aging, we're not. I think it's a reflection of a graduation from the Youth League. And it is a total takeover, if you look at it, at the headquarters of the ANC Youth League leadership that have come through the ranks of the ANC. So members of the ANC are quite excited about that. Sunday Times, how is this campaign going to be different? The campaign goal is to ensure decisive victory for the ANC. And we're not chasing two-thirds majority. I hear people talking about two-thirds. ANC doesn't talk about two-thirds. ANC talks about overwhelming victory, which is going to come from our hard work and engaging with our people. We don't take our people for granted, and it is not a given that the ANC will get this majority. Not at all. We've got to work hard, address the concerns of our people. That is why our research says that we must deal with perceptions of corruption. It is not for us to argue with our people about whether or not we are perceived to be corrupt or not. It is the action that we are going to take about some of our members who might be implicated in corrupt activities. What is our attitude to those members? And not skate around and be ambiguous and blah, 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 without acting decisively. Corruption in society, public service, and all of that, in the private sector, it is there, and the ANC must be seen to be acting decisively. So this campaign is a campaign that says we don't relate with people like the tap and the lipstick way, which means ad hoc. It is a campaign that says Tumamina sent me, means members of the ANC to the front in relation to that. And that has been espoused and embraced by society in the state of the nation by the president of the country. And it signals a message of shift. It ushers in a season of hope in the Republic. Members of the African National Congress must not only embrace, but must demonstrate in practice. What does that message mean practically? We've got councillors. We've got members of the provincial legislatures. We've got MPs. We've got constituency offices. It means we must at all material times be among our people and resolving their issues. Where there is no process of speed up delivery, we must intervene. You take the demands of the people in Kagiso, in the fight against crime. ANC structures must be in the forefront of that. The people of Mhlabua Lingana, the people of the Mitchell's Plain and everywhere else in the country, where there is an outcry about crime and so on, the ANC must not only join, must be in the forefront of those struggles. And it must not be ad hoc because there is an election. We must use our being in power to ensure that we push our public representatives to do what is right. And that is what is important. And that's what we're going to ensure we actually implement. This campaign, it will be a highly contested campaign, but we are equal to the task, and we're looking at a campaign in which we will not be negative against our opponents, and we're not going to play the person. We want to run a positive campaign. As the ANC, we want to run a positive campaign as a movement, and that's what we're going to do. It is a campaign that will unfold in your houses, in the streets, where people gather en masse, will contest for what it is right, and basically demonstrate our victories and claim them. We will not shy away from that, but we will not be arrogant. It is a campaign that must demonstrate the willingness of the ANC to consolidate power, to advance the demands of our people of bring about a better life for all, with a fundamental recognition that 23 years into power, much has been done, but now it must be radically accelerated. Radical means expedite. Where you have seen in the 23 years that land, for instance, it is slower pace. Let's accelerate. Our Congress have given us a clear mandate. In the economy, what we need to do to affirm policies that will bring about fundamental change. It is not about undermining production, positive production in terms of agriculture and all of that, is to accelerate the program of land redistribution. It probably must start even with the land that is owned by the state, to basically compensate, distribute that land without compensation, to ensure that we move with the necessary speed. The last point, SABC, we have answered that question. The issue of toll gates is being dealt with. If you talk about what is happening in Gauteng, the Premier in the State of the Nation address have spoken at length about that. As to what is the attitude of the ANC to that particular matter, it's a question that the ANC will have mandated government to deal with that particular question. And David Makura and his team in Gauteng, working with national government, will engage on the particular matter and address the defects that arise as a result of the introduction of, what is this? It's not toll gates.
E-tolls.
E-tolls, yeah. It's not toll gates, it's e-tolls. What?
Countries.
Countries, yeah. Muntlenyane dipoko. SABC. Thank you.
No. Thanks. Okay, yeah, I'm going to give you really to take a last bite so we can close. You can go.
We know that the last time around, there was a little bit of fight around it. Not fight around it, but there was a bit of dissatisfaction with the process that led up to the finalization of the province to national and national to national list. So, in terms of your time frames and your planning, is that something that you want to get out of the way very quickly, or is it something that you want to plan towards so that you don't have the same problems and dilemmas that happened last time?
When it comes to the list processes, are you as, for instance, there's been a complaint by the current youth league that they are not thoroughly represented in the cabinet that was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. You yourself have been affected of that cabinet reshuffle. Are you going to be engaging other youth league structures across the country for the list processes going to the 2019 elections to be more inclusive of young people? And are you willing to go back to Parliament yourself and to be a minister? Thank you.
Thanks, Comrade Mbax.
Part of the issues that we are dealing with in this workshop is the list process. And incorporating in the list process the conference resolution with regard to how the list process must unfold. We will run the list process if it is agreed within a specified time to enable all the processes that accompany the list process to be dealt with. That include parties that may be aggrieved to actually appeal, and then so that the appeal process itself can be fair. But our list process is going to be open. It's going to be a list process that seek to ensure that we embrace the masses, but we embrace continuity and experience. and that is what the ANC will do. So this workshop is considering all those issues and dealing with them, and the SG is leading that process, and the DSG, and it will be implemented as quick as possible within the agreed time frames. One of the things about our election campaign is going to be discipline, meeting the time frames without wasting any time. That is what is going to happen. So we are dealing with the list. Samkelo, I'm not a victim. I was redeployed to Luthuli House. The question of a sentiment that arises that Mbalula is dealt with because he did not agree, it's a farce. Right? People will have concerns about deployment and redeployment, their favor rates, because we grow to favor people and love them in positions and hate others probably, or criticize others. And President Ramaphosa have explained to all of you, even in the State of the Nation, but for the sake of progress, you must be reminded, South Africa must be reminded. The President said, I want a leaner cabinet, but it is not implementable now. It will be informed, that leaner cabinet, by a feasibility study. Because you can't say sports must mix with tourism. What feasibility have you made with regard to that? And that water must mix with sanitation. What feasibility have you made? And he pronounced in the State of the Nation, which is public record, that in the next year, renewal of cabinet embraces this desire, and that will be reflected. It means the ANC itself will embark on that process to ensure that this resolution is actually embraced and is going to be implemented. I don't want to talk too much about it because people will start counting how many cabinet posts and whether or not I will make it in the next cabinet. To serve in the cabinet is the privilege that you get by the ANC. Now, the Youth League must fight for the youth. It's correct. And they must fight for the youth, and that is why they are in the ANC. They must breathe life. They must engage. But we will not want anybody to be destructive, where in which you now fight for individuals. Fight for the principle. Because the principle of young blood mix in the list is welcomed, and it must be reflected. And with the Women's League is even expressed in percentages, 50-50. Now, the Youth League, in terms of its purpose in the ANC, among others, is not only to fight for position, but if you ask if they are aggrieved about youth representation and youth affirmation, it is absolutely within their right. But they must raise that within the discipline of the African National Congress, because they've got access to the president, they've got access to the top 5, they've got access to the NEC, access to the NWC. So all those issues are basically addressed. Now, I will be sitting here sulking and then being unhappy about my redeployment. Look, I enjoyed my time in government. I did my best, and my movement honored me with that position. But if the ANC says go this direction, I go. And I'm not going to ask 72 questions. Why me? I'm simply going to move. And I'm here now. And my movement and our structures and everybody has embraced me. So I'm not a victim. Those who are victims probably is Pule because he's never been to government at the executive level. And he reshuffled himself from parliament and came back. So I'm not reshuffled. It was not even said that Mbalula go to another department. I was asked straight, one ticket, no return, Luthuli House. Now, whether or not what will happen after the election, look, my job is elections and to do it full-time at Luthuli House. And look, I'm happy about it. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, colleagues. This now brings us to the end of the briefing. We are now going to proceed to do a photo op, possibly where President Zuma is, because he's a participant in this workshop, and many others will also be joining, especially former presidents of the ANC going forward. Just to show you that the ANC is one, united and ready for victory next year. We can proceed to the photo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Samkelo.
Well, those were the live visuals from Luthuli House here in Johannesburg, where the ANC has been holding a press briefing on the preparations for the 2019 elections. Fikile Mbalula has outlined some of the key objectives of the elections workshop, some of which include the party's campaign goal, which he says is a decisive win, no two-third majorities in next year's general elections. He said there's absolutely no room for that. He also mentioned that the ANC is working towards just an overall overwhelming majority, overwhelming victory. Some of the other objectives he has outlined are the issues of dealing with the perception of corruption and, of course, accelerating the demands of the people radically. Fikile Mbalula also reiterated that the ANC will solely run a positive campaign and that there will be no negativity directed towards oppositions. Not to forget, he also reiterated also what the president stated at the SONA, that each and every single ANC member is ready to raise their hands and say Tumamina, which translates to being send me.